In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, December 6, 2022. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our township website. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Thal-Eglow?
Here.
Mr. Vinayak? Mr. Wasserman?
Here.
Mayor Miggins?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Thank you. Tonight we have a proclamation. Mayor Becker and Diane, this is the Community Service Award Committee. So Diane, do you want to give us a little proclamation? Yep, and have Missy come on up and Miss Becker come on up. Mayor Becker. Our chair of the Community Service Board.
I usually come up just to introduce myself, Elaine Becker, who has been a few years on the Community Service Award Committee, which I have enjoyed so very much. And I can read the names of the people who are here, so some of you may say, oh, I didn't know that so-and-so was on the committee. So let me just say that the members of the committee are Ying Lu, Laura Cheney, Jackie Benjamin Lieberberg, Jennifer Mann Rosenblatt, James Chan, and of course our community liaison who's been a couple of years with us doing her duty too, coming to help us with the proclamations and so forth. Tonight's awardee is our friend here. I just met her, which is wonderful. I've seen your name a million times. Missy Rodriguez. She all about Missy in a moment. And what I just wanted to say was how important this committee has been. Since 1991, this is our 92nd award. And what makes it so wonderful is that they're all people from Milburn who have done wonderful things. They have done volunteer efforts that really are worthy of an award. And the Township Committee wants to say they acknowledge what people have done and thank them. So that's really what it's all about. And let's see, Laura, are you going to introduce Missy before Diane will read the proclamation? Okay, thank you.
She's gonna read the whole thing, right?
Yes.
So just to give you some background, I've known Missy for probably 15 years. When we moved to town, Missy and I, we've met each other through our kids, but one of the things that Missy has done over the last almost 10 years is start Missy's Miracle. And if you know about Missy's Miracle, what it does is it basically pairs together with the New Jersey Sharing Network and gives you the ability for kids who are of organ donor or organ transplant the opportunity to go to college, because Missy's other job besides being a mother and the founder of Missy's Miracle is she's a college advisor. One of the things that Missy has done is that she's raised awareness for organ donation, as well as the opportunity to say that she can help kids who need help with college advising, who could have the opportunity to get some funds to go to college through her foundation. And Missy started this based on the fact that she is the youngest, yes?
I was the first successful liver transplant, and that was in 1985.
1985.
Wow.
That was the first 10 minutes.
And to Missy said she kept this very private for a long time, and then some things happened in 2000
Yeah, about when I was 40.
When she was 40. She then went public, and then she uses as her platform to tell people about her transplant and that fact that she can help other kids. my daughter would have been here, but she is at another volunteer event, but she runs it along with Ruby Kresh. They run the Missy's Miracle out of Melbourne High School, as well as there's always efforts through any of the Melbourne public schools. If any of your children want to get involved, there's the opportunity to do that, because we want to raise awareness as well as funds for Missy's Miracle, and also get people to, when they sign up to do their license, organ donation, which is very important. As you can see, Missy's life is saved through organ donation, and other recipients will be saved now and in the future. So thank you, Missy. You can talk a little bit about what you do, but you really, what after the proclamation.
Okay.
But thank you, and as Elaine talked about it, community, our community outreach is about highlighting great members of the community and being able to showcase what they do for others and to help others. So thank you.
Yeah. So now you get your official proclamation, which I would be honored to read. Whereas the Milburn Township Committee values the contributions of volunteers in the township and recognizes outstanding accomplishments of volunteers in our community. And whereas Missy's Miracle was founded in 2015 in celebration of the 30th anniversary of Township resident Missy Rodriguez' life-saving liver transplant, and her being the first 10-year-old in the world to receive a successful liver transplant. And whereas Missy's Miracle is a fund of New Jersey Sharing Network, the state of New Jersey organ procurement organization, which supports scholarships for high school students whose lives have been impacted by organ and tissue donation and transplantation. And whereas Missy's Miracle has offered $5,000 for college scholarships to every public and private high school throughout the state of New Jersey to students committed to the donation and transplantation community, and is the only scholarship of its kind that has served as a model in this country. And whereas Milburn High School hosts the founding chapter of Missy's Miracle Club and has supported other clubs at the high school level, which are dedicated to raising awareness and promoting the importance of organ donation, as well as fundraising towards scholarships. And whereas Missy's Miracle and Missy Rodriguez are tireless advocates for organ, tissue donation, and transplantation, engaging all ages, races, religions, and ethnicities. Now, therefore, Mayor Miggins of the Township of Milburn, on behalf of the Township Committee and members of the community, on the 6th day of December 2022, extend gratitude and praise to Missy Rodriguez and Missy's Miracle for raising much needed awareness of organ and tissue donation and transplantation that saves lives and enhances the quality of life for others. You know, I've always heard about you. I've never met you either until tonight, and it is a pleasure and an honor to meet you and be able to hand you this proclamation for all you've done and all you're going to continue to do for our community and more than our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you want to say a few words.
Sure, I don't, and I don't want to cry because I had something done on my face the other day. Thank you, guys. Thank you. This means so much to me. This hasn't been easy. So I kept my transplant a secret for 30 years. Only a few people knew, because back in the 80s, no one wanted to be different. And especially at 10 years old, going through preteen and high school and college, I didn't talk about it at all. But then, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever it was, I had some complications back when I turned 40. And so I figured that was the time to sort of come out to my friends and community and let them know what I was going through. And I did that in the fashion of merging my professional life as a college counselor with my personal life with having a liver transplant. And so that's how Missy's Miracle was born. And since then, we have, as you had stated, I have a scholarship available in every single high school in the state of New Jersey for $5,000. So it's a tremendous amount of fundraising and effort, but really more than that is the awareness. We are to the point in this town where kids in the high school and middle school can talk about transplantation as if it's just very regular. I had a boy in my car a couple of years ago, a Glenwood boy, asked me when his mom was having her transplant. She just thought everyone had one. It was just like that normalized. And it's an amazing honor. I could be in ShopRite and I'm walking through the aisles and I could see someone wearing a Missy's Miracle t-shirt. And I think, wow, that's part of my my awareness. Also, what I really want to stress is that my scholarship is not just for anyone who has had a transplant or for anyone who has had a family member as a transplant. It is available for anyone who advocates for organ donation. So I've given out thousands of dollars for people who maybe heard about it in health in school, or maybe had a neighbor or a babysitter that was somehow impacted by it. So it's not something that's just limited. I want to make it as broad as possible. And there's also absolutely no financial need that's corresponding to this scholarship. You get this scholarship based on the application of how you've been impacted and how you plan to continue advocating for organ donation. The Missy's Miracle Club at Milburn High School, as well as some other high schools in New Jersey, has become one of the biggest clubs that Milburn offers. I know at their kickoff meeting this year, and this is an testament to so the current presidents, Ruby Kresh and Avery Janae, and former presidents from the past. I know in the kickoff meeting was standing room only. There were more students in there that could fit into the room where they held the meeting. And we have events that we cap off at numbers because so many people are involved. So that's really, I'm going to continue doing this. I have plans to bring it to the college level next year, hopefully. And want to keep on working hard to make everyone in Milburn proud and just really share in my little way that I could help make the world a better place. Thank you.
Is it contrary to paper? No, it is not. Anyone to receive your proclamation? Oh, you come back.
Yes, I'll come back and when I could be in that little picture too.
But I know they ordered just at the same time, so it's probably down here in dollars.
Well, we'll find it.
Yeah, I'll come back when I could actually be in the picture. Yes, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, this is amazing.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Do we want to just take a quick 2-minute break? Please. I guess that, you know, so all right. And we're back. Reports. Oh. Is that on?
my home.
Okay. We will now consider reports. Our professionals and committee members may directly report on matters under their purview. Please only directly report on matters and do not request that of other members or professionals. This is not a time for dialogue or debate, and I'm going to start with Business Administrator Alex McDonald. Do you have anything to report on, sir?
Just a few brief reports. One is my meeting reminder, every meeting until this January 1st. Zone 6 recycling will be moving to Friday. That notice has been put up on the website with the street listings as well that encompass Zone 6, but most people do know what zone they're in terms of recycling. A direct mailer will be going out to Zone 6 as well, and we'll continue to communicate that from now until the end of the year when that change takes place.
And that zone is mostly the Deerfield section? Right?
Yep.
Mostly the Deerfield section.
A notice went out to commercial business owners regarding those that were grandfathered into trash collection, that will cease on January 30th. And that it's a handful at this point. I think it's 40 businesses that are impacted by that change. That was previously reported, and that notice officially went out to everyone. And so that will take place at the end of January. Just a reminder to all our residents, this is the holiday season, and we just ask that everybody continue to be vigilant with regard to locking your cars, taking your key fobs inside. This has historically, although we've had a few months of decreased car thefts, I think it was 3-2-1 at this point from September, October, November. But we have historically seen an increase over the holidays due to people warming up their cars, running into a store quick to grab something. Just be vigilant. We'll continue to put out reminders and communication through the township's channels about not leaving packages in your back seat and making sure that you're just aware of your surroundings this time of year. And lastly, just want to report to the Township Committee as well as the public that the fire department received a grant that was funded through the American Rescue Plan Firefighters Assistance Grant in the amount of $21,000 to purchase turnout gear for our firefighters. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Molman, do you have anything to report on?
No reports.
No reports. Thank you. Mr. Marizini, do you have anything to report on?
Do not have a report.
Okay. Ms. Eklo?
Are you still gonna?
I'm going to start on this one.
Okay.
Shake it up a little.
Okay. The only report, Tara and I, who are now for the remainder of the year, the subcommittee for the fair share housing, we did have a meeting with the parties who will be our attorney, our planner, looking at some modifications that would be acceptable to fair share housing in the township committee, but nothing has been set in stone. There's nothing to report on the details of that, but we did meet. We're trying to make some progress. And it's just not a report. We just got this today, and I'd just like to put out to the public that they should tune into tomorrow night's planning board meeting, because they will be discussing possibility of additional 350 addresses that could be put onto the historic preservation list. And I think there's going to be input from the community, which may have broader impact on the document, will allow for additional edits and modifications. These outreach efforts should be completed prior to the statutory required public hearing. So I don't know if people are aware that this is happening, and I think more people might tune into this meeting tonight, and hopefully TAP will pick up on it, and we'll share this information to our public, that there are possibly 351 addresses which are residential and commercial that will be added possibly, and what that means to you as a homeowner or commercial property owner. So I think it would be really important that people are notified by the town if their address is on this list, and that they are interested in looking and zooming into tomorrow night's planning board meeting. And I don't think they'll be able to comment if it's just, I'm not sure if people will be able to comment and ask questions, but it will be presented to the planning boards. This is really important because it's going to affect a lot of people in town. So that's it.
Ms. Prupus?
I just have, Alex, are you gonna report on the special report? How's that being handled? On the affordable housing special council update that's still on the agenda?
I think that's gonna be up to the subcommittee as well. Yeah, I think Diane touched on some of that already.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Are you going to continue to talk about it and discuss it?
Well, I was just wondering, Alex. I was just wondering, so, I mean, are you specifically gonna address that Jerry Cantor's not here tonight? I mean,
I have
Yeah.
questions about it, but I thought, why don't we finish reports and then we can, it's a special report we could talk about afterwards?
okay, I just didn't know how that was gonna
Sure.
work.
Just like that.
Okay,
Do you have any reports?
no reports.
No reports. Mr.
Yeah.
Wasserman?
Yes, I have a couple of reports, Mayor. So Explore Millburg continues to be an engine for engagement and support for small businesses in town. Explore is in full holiday mode. This past weekend, we set up 4 igloos and 3 fire pits in the Main Street pedestrian mall. Over 1,000 visitors came through during the weekend to enjoy the space as well as to listen to traditional 19th century caroling. And that happened on Saturday, along with a brass band on Sunday. They set up and will move to the boxcar in Short Hill Station for this coming weekend. And we'll also have a live ice sculpture carver on Saturday and Hanukkah arts and crafts on Sunday. Please go to the Explore website and follow them on social media to keep up to date on information. And again, we're doing all of these great engagements. Please stay in town and enjoy the local events. There's a lot of great stuff that's on the agenda through the rest of the year. A lot of fun things. I also want to give a thank you to Steve and Amanda, just working all through the weekend on the township's behalf, and they've done a great job. And I just want to throw it out there. Also, in terms of our flood mitigation work, we continue to look at and analyze the infrastructure at the Orange Reservoir, which we found out a lot about from our visit last month. And our engineers are looking at the information they found, and we're working on that as we speak. And I think that there could be some really great solutions in the short term. And also the work in South Mountain continues. We are also working to try to get that 3rd drainage project underway also in South Mountain. So those are my reports.
Thank you, Mr. Wasserman. I have a announcement about the library. The 41st Annual Friends of the Milburn Library Student Chess Tournament will take place this Saturday, December 10th, starting at 9:30 at the library. The tournament is open to students age 5 through 15, and there is a $15 fee in advance or $20 at the door. You can get more information on the library's website. And it was a great turnout for them, so that's terrific. And that's it for reports. So we can then go to the special report for the Affordable Housing Council update. Tara, anything to report?
No, you got the memo?
I did, so we're going to talk about that. I think we need to talk about that. I think we need to talk about the fact that we've hired an attorney who hasn't shown up for 2 meetings and sent out a letter to the judge, didn't have.
Maggie, you have had, so to be fair.
No, excuse me, you're interrupting me. Let me finish. Thank you. There were a couple things that I had a problem with in terms of his letter. That he was speaking for the whole township committee when it wasn't the whole township committee he was speaking for, it was just the subcommittee. And that to tell that to the attorney, it's concerning to me that the attorney hasn't shown up for 2 meetings. And we have a court case on December 16th. And although we sent a letter to the judge, we still haven't heard back from the judge either. That's a little concerning because we're supposed to be in court on December 16th.
Has there been any?
Wait, are you?
I just
No,
want to
no,
ask a question.
Is he
No, no,
allowed to
no.
ask a question before I can?
No, hold on. And then we did receive something in, it's concerning to me that we received something that's privileged and confidential in today's email. Like, we're just getting things at the last minute. And it's concerning to me because we wanted full transparency, and that's why you hired Mr. Cantor, was to have full transparency. And yet he wants to go into an executive session and discuss strategy when that's not what the township residents wanted. They wanted full transparency.
All right, Maggie, let me just, so first of all, Diane and I interviewed, 5 different attorneys, and we opened it up to the entire township community. And we had a closed session scheduled, and you didn't want to be a part of it at all. Excuse me, I'm not done, right? So I'm not finished. Let me finish talking. Please don't interrupt me. So you had every single opportunity.
Sure.
I sent you emails to participate, and you absolutely denied participating at all.
Right, we didn't
Okay,
need to.
and wait, please don't
Continue.
interrupt me again. I missed your smile so much, Maggie. So if I only could make it, I would, but I never knew how to. So you were invited to participate. In fact, it was your duty to participate, as was yours and Sanjeev's. And you guys canceled it last minute. So I don't want you to make these accusations like you weren't a part of this process for the entire, or given the opportunity to participate, because you chose not to participate at every step along the way. Jared is having a medical procedure. You could have picked up the phone and talked to him. Diane is not even gonna be here next year. She has absolutely no vote in what is gonna happen. You and Sanjeev and Michael and Annette and myself are gonna need to sit in a room with Mr. Cantor and give him some direction as a consensus of a committee of the entire TC. You can't, Maggie, after the entire year that you've pushed this settlement along, you can't just throw your hands up and saying that you're not gonna participate anymore.
No one's saying that. What we're
What-
saying is that
so
people
hold
want
on.
it done in public.
What-
We want it done in public.
So what do you mean you want it then? If you wanted it done in public, then why didn't you, Sanjeev and Richard say, this is the way it's gonna happen? And do it in public? Like, what would you like to talk about?
I think what
What would you like to see happen? Because what's your plan right now?
shall I finish or do you wish to keep interrupting me?
Whoa,
Okay, so
wink, wink, smile.
what we had talked about was that you're the subcommittee and the subcommittee was tasked with, which is what we talked about.
It doesn't work.
Excuse me,
Oh my God,
Ms.
this is
Prupus,
so-
I'm speaking.
Oh my God.
The subcommittee was tasked with hiring an attorney. You interviewed attorneys, terrific. We said to you, have at it, go for it. You didn't like what Mr. Wasserman and I had had signed off on, as it were, with Fair Share, that all 5 of us signed off on. You didn't like that. You asked to be on a subcommittee. Your prerequisite was that you wanted Mr. Buzak let go, which you agreed to do, Diane and you and Sanjeev. Mr. Wasserman and I abstained. You wanted this, you have what you want, and now what I'm saying is, excuse me, I'm speaking, but I'm speaking. So stop interrupting me, please.
Goodness.
Stop it, it's rude. What we're saying is that we now have an attorney who's doing what the townspeople don't want to have happen, which is to go into an executive session to negotiate with Fair Share where they're
That's
not
not what's
part of it.
happening.
Well, that's what his letter says.
Maggie, that is not what's happening.
That's
What
what
is
his
it?
letter says.
Okay, may I,
That's not what his letter says.
Yes, it is.
may I
You can
speak?
read it.
Okay,
I'll
how
read
about
it.
if I
Yes.
speak for a minute? May I speak for a minute?
Please.
Okay, first of
That's not what
all,
this letter says.
Jared, okay, let's clear the air for everybody here. Jared Cantor did not come to the meeting 2 weeks ago because he was told the day before, and he already had a commitment.
Is that true?
Yeah,
You know,
he's lying, everybody.
Diane doesn't lie.
Was he told the day before?
He had a meeting, he couldn't,
I understand, but he wasn't told, just like he knew about this
About
meeting
our
and we didn't hear about it till yesterday that he wasn't coming.
okay, let me finish, please.
Because, you know, by the way, there are 13 members of his law firm. Any one of those members could have come to this meeting.
Okay, can
Maggie,
I,
you know what?
shh,
Why-
let me finish,
wait,
please.
Any one of them.
Okay, so now he was, we met with him and we did talk about transparency and having things done out in the open. And as counsel of record now, he told us that is not the strategy. You don't go and start talking about all the options you have.
strange turn of events.
Yes.
It's not a strange turn of events.
Mr. Feld, no.
This is unreal.
Everybody, so
Strange
listen,
turn of events.
also,
It's not a strange turn of events. Oh my goodness.
you know what I'm hearing
Can I
here,
just interrupt for a moment?
This
We
is-
we are recording this,
Yes.
this meeting. And in order to have a proper record of the meeting, we have to
Right.
have one person speaking at a time.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the mayor is in charge of deciding who that is under the rules.
So it's Ms. Eglow at the moment, who
Okay.
asked for the floor.
what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking I'm hearing from Mayor Miggins, if you don't want to modify the settlement, which wasn't just what we didn't like, the community didn't like what you and Richard came up with, Ms. McManus. Ms. McManus was in the room. We finally had Mr. Petto in the room, our town planner. What I'm speculating is you are just gonna let this fly and then maybe in January, just keep what you and Richard pulled off with Ms. McManus.
Which you,
Okay, that's good. So
which
you're
you
We've been
voted
asking-
for, which was
You're
voted
hold
for,
on, you're
which
in pressure,
voted
you're in
for
pressure.
unanimously. You're not
Richard,
there
hold on,
anymore.
hold on one second.
And you've never been mayor.
No,
Hello.
no,
hold on
no.
one second. Please,
One at
hold
a
on.
time.
And you're leaving
Please,
also.
hold on, hold
One
on.
at a time.
Hold on, please,
You know, the
please.
Supreme Court didn't behave much better today either. I'll just put that. Wait, I just want to say, I'm gonna finish. The Supreme Court did not behave much differently when one of the justices had the nerve to bring up JD and then mocked and said, what if I can't even say what he said. What I'm saying is, so I know you guys don't like when we don't seem organized up here. We have a lot of differences of opinion. It's very difficult because this fair share housing will affect the town forever. Now, we all know that the community was in uproar about certain things in the settlement, okay? The overlay zones and the 75 unit, 100% affordable. So Mr. Cohn and Ms. Romano, you have a huge task ahead of you next year to either you will be the ones to say if Jared and Beth and Graham can come up with a modified plan that will be acceptable, because it has to be acceptable to fair share housing, which is what my Republican opponents have never understood. Or you can go with Maggie and the three of you can vote to keep what made the community go in uproar. So this is where we're at. So we have to meet with Jared. We're gonna have a closed session.
So
That's procedure.
So
But
Jared
here-
needs
excuse me,
direction. And you know
excuse me, I didn't give you the floor, Tara, excuse me. What Jared said was that it was his recommendation, a discussion should take place to protect attorney-client privilege as to not to provide additional material that could be used against the town.
Correct.
However, we still haven't heard from the judge. We're supposed to be meeting the judge on December 16th, I believe the date is, December 16th. We still don't know whether or not the judge is saying, hold it off, or no, we want to meet with you. So is Jared prepared for December 16th if the judge decides that she's not going to cancel the meeting? Is he going to be prepared? That's my question. You've met with him a few times. You interviewed a few attorneys. You hired him. That's great. That's what you were tasked to do. That's what the subcommittee was tasked to do. What I'm trying to say is that we don't need to meet. It should be, the town was very upset with the negotiations. We're not going to get involved in the negotiations. That's going to be left to Tara. You won't be here next year, but she'll get involved in the negotiations.
Just
But the
me,
town-
I'm gonna be handling the negotiations all by myself next year, Maggie?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
What, that is
However-
absurd. You are
however-
acting absurd right now.
You're entitled to your.
I think that you're
Those are-
acting
excuse
absurd.
me.
You're throwing your hands
You're
and trying to
entitled-
put this all on me and Diane.
Tara,
No,
excuse
Maggie,
me,
excuse me, I'm speaking now.
because you're rude
No,
and you
I'm
interrupt people,
No,
and it's
Maggie,
wrong.
I'm
It's wrong.
speaking right now.
No, you don't have the floor. I haven't given it to you. So I'm saying that it's interesting. I don't believe that the man should be speaking on behalf of the township committee when the whole township.
You hired
committee-
him, Maggie.
Excuse me,
You
excuse
absolutely
me,
hired him.
again, manners.
Oh my God,
This-
this is
He
unreal.
needs to, when he's speaking, we need to know what he's saying, that the whole township committee agrees to what he's saying. Otherwise, he's not representing everyone. He's representing the subcommittee. He's not
And
representing
the
everyone.
subcommittee represents the township.
But we
But we
tried to
should
get
know
you
about
involved
this.
and you threw your hands up and you wouldn't come to the
No,
meeting.
that's not true, Ms.
Yes, it
Krupus. We just
is.
didn't get involved in hiring the attorneys. because you and Ms. Eglo had said that you would be more than happy to take that on and doing that in the subcommittee, hiring the attorney. You, as you said, you interviewed, I think it was
As
two
the authorized
attorneys.
subcommittee.
Two attorneys.
You shut up.
no,
You shut up. No, you
Excuse
shut
me.
up. I don't speak that way. You do.
You, oh my God.
You shut up. How does that sound?
Mr. McDonald, how many people did the subcommittee interview?
I thought it was 5.
I think it was 4.
Oh,
total.
4,
What are we
excuse
even
me.
debating here? What would you like to see happen, Maggie?
Nothing.
You know what? I'm off the subcommittee. I'm giving it back to Maggie. There you go, Maggie. It's all you. And you know what? You can have it till I'm done. I'm done with the subcommittee.
If you'd like to be finished with the subcommittee, then we could just have the business administrator handle it. That's all.
Have the business administrator handle it. Sounds good. Because you were gonna just throw your hands up, Maggie, and not want to be involved at all. I'm off the
Again,
subcommittee.
the only thing I will,
This is mine to
the
carry.
only thing I will state is that, you know, as a committee, you can't take straw polls, you can't, send emails and things like, so the way for the committee to make a
We tried to have a
decision.
closed session
Excuse
tonight.
me,
This is
Mr.
unreal.
The way for the way for the committee to make a decision and provide direction to myself or to Mr. Cantor in this example is to provide the direction through a closed session. So
Which we tried to do tonight, and Maggie didn't want it tonight.
and so I think that's what Mr. Cantor is stating in his memo is that there should be a way in which he is given that direction, because to the point of the adjournment request was on behalf of the subcommittee. It's very difficult to operate unless you are going to do everything out in the public from the dais or have the ability to use a closed session as a way to give direction.
I'm
the only-
officially off the subcommittee.
Okay, wait. The only way to have a closed session, either the mayor can request it or 3 township committee members. So yes, Tara and I were hoping to have a closed session tonight. We could have moved forward, but what I'm really feeling is that if Maggie has her druthers, she will keep what they proposed last year, which would be really very sad for our community. So let's hope that's not what I'm picking up on.
You shouldn't speak to anyone like that.
I agree.
It's just inappropriate. It is just totally inappropriate to ever speak to anyone.
All right, so who's gonna be on the subcommittee? Because I'm off, and Diane's not here next year, and Maggie's not gonna touch it.
Guess we'll have to figure it out.
Michael and Annette,
To figure it out.
congratulations. You guys won a subcommittee for affordable housing.
Okay, terrific.
I was
Thank
still
you.
waiting for mine from last year.
Okay, so that's the report on. Do you have anything else to add, Mr. Wasserman?
No, I just wanted to know what the plan was if we have to go to court on the 16th.
We're not gonna go to court on the 16th. Everybody a fair share approved it,
Right.
and Frank Banish approved it, and I foresee that we are not going to court on the 16th. And everyone else should know that Maggie as mayor held up all the other compliance resolutions, right? Alex told me that the rest of the compliance, so we could have had, she never wanted to be compliant or decided not to hold a resolution. Well, that's what Alex told me.
No, but that's.
That's what Alex told me, so
Well, thank you.
you're
for
welcome,
that.
Alex.
And also, there are 5 items that the township is not in compliance with.
And you said that Maggie didn't want them. They could have been, but of course, election season, no one does anything. So she didn't want them to come up, the resolution.
We wanted to
Then
go
why-
to the judge. We want the judge, we have been pushing on
This
to
was
get to the
back from
judge.
no, you're making up stuff.
No, I'm not.
Okay, then Alex is lying to me, which I don't think Alex lies to me. So,
I don't know. But we'll move on.
yeah.
Also,
Where are those ordinances though?
Excuse
Maybe
me?
we actually should tell them what ordinances we're not in compliance with, in case we do on the 16th. Alex, what are we not what are we not compliant with?
I don't have the exact.
But you know what they are, right? I mean, you've only been with this stuff for years,
With 5, we're out of compliance with 5 items,
okay,
right? And what are they?
Canubra Country Club.
right, which was attempted to pass twice.
And you didn't vote.
Yes, I did not vote for this. I haven't voted for any of it. I think it's a disaster. What else?
A developer's agreement with for the 75 units.
Wait, can you repeat? Yeah, I didn't.
Sorry, the developer's agreement for the 75 units.
And where's that?
that is not complete.
And what, has it been worked on?
There, I've stated this at several meetings. There's been, some meetings, but very little progress on that. And there are 3
I mean,
resolutions.
so Maggie and Richard were on that for months. I mean, literally, we just got this a month ago, so why that wasn't on compliant or worked on their developer agreement, I don't know, but what are the other things?
That's not entirely true either.
Oh.
That group was Ms. Eglo and Ms. Miggins.
Okay, okay, not you,
that,
they didn't do anything.
And the only resolution that I remember is an intent to fund, which is also deals with the 75 units.
And there are 2 other ones. There are 2 other ones that we talked about. What is
One of
it?
them is the spending plan for the township's affordable housing trust. And then the last one is, I believe it is the endorsement of the housing.
And they could have been on the agenda, but Maggie sets the agenda and she didn't want them on. That's it.
The township is, whether that's done or not, or whether the township is still going or still would have gone to that compliance hearing, not in compliance.
Right, but those stuff still didn't get done because Maggie didn't want them on the agenda.
You could have.
That's
put it
how it
on.
operated.
No, you could have put
I
it
didn't-
on.
Maggie, the mayor sets the agenda.
But
That's
you
your
get to-
duty and your job.
It is, and you get to add to it as a
All right,
township
Maggie.
committee person. In fact, there's a couple things on the agenda that you put
Maggie,
on.
that wasn't mine. I thought the whole settlement was a disaster. I've been saying it since last December for a year now.
That's why you're on the
Maggie, you done it.
subcommittee.
Oh, Maggie, stop. Are you
There you
kidding?
go. Public
There you
comment.
go. Please.
When invited
Vote her
to
out.
speak, please come to the lectern, clearly state your name and address, and speak loudly so that your comments may be understood by all and properly recorded. For the convenience of our community, there is a remote option available. If you called in and would like to comment, please press *6 now. If you are attending by computer or electronic device, please click the raise hand button. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. Whenever an audience or committee member reads verbatim from a prepared statement, please email a copy to the Township Clerk's office at townclerk@milburntwp.org. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to 1 3-minute session. You will be prompted when there is 30 seconds remaining. Each individual will be given 1 opportunity to make their public comment. Please be patient, and we will address each member of the public that wishes to speak. This is a business meeting, and please do not address professionals or staff directly, and please direct all comments to me. A reminder that we are all neighbors and personal attacks will not be tolerated. I will now open the public comment period. Should I turn this? Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Hello, Leah Cruz, 39 Whitney Road. I just have one comment about graffiti. It's my little issue, my pet peeve. I should have just emailed, but I forgot, so I'm gonna just say it while I'm here. I noticed more graffiti right at the corner of Town Hall Plaza where you turn off Essex, Town Hall Plaza, on the white plastic divide. It's like a divider concrete thing. It looks like the same person who tagged the art installation that I had emailed you about. You can see it's the same tag. So I just hope that can be cleaned up. I'm afraid to walk through Taylor Park and see how much graffiti there is there, but hopefully there's none. And then I was just also going to ask if you could follow up with, I think it's JCP&L for the box on Great Hills and White Oak Ridge.
Okay.
I mean, is there a way we can clean it up ourselves, just spray over it or something? It's really unsightly, and I just feel like it gives, you know, it lets people think we don't care about our town, so anyway. And if there's any other graffiti in town, we have all of you people who live here, I hope that you would just have it cleaned up so I don't have to keep reporting it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mrs. Cruz.
My turn.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld, 11 Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. Transparency fuels democracy. And I think we should always think about the people in China who are protesting for the right to hear and to speak and to have facts. We should all be holding up a blank sheet. We want to do it because this is a protest about what you just displayed. I want to thank Alex for posting the supplemental debt statement on the public website. And I'm going to renew my request that you post the employee handbook on the website. The best practices inventory responses for the last 5 years. Approved closed executive session meetings. A link to each township committee meetings that people have a video that they don't have to search. When they go to the agenda page, they can do it. In October last year, when we had a new CFO, he promised giving us 3 months quarterly revenue and operating reports. I've been asking for us to create a public pleadings library. Because last week, when we talked about transparency, I was asking the court to allow me to post the public link to a case management conference that was supposed to happen yesterday. Rather than holding a case management conference, last Thursday, the court said we're going to postpone it and if you want submissions of letters. This is my submission, this is the town's. It needs to be on a public website so people can compare it. 2 cases came out since the submission that you should read them. I'll give you the sites tomorrow. However, one of the issues we have, and this is for the township committee, because we were all defendants, is Rule 469-4. Rule 69-4 is for prerogative writs, and you don't have a meeting until there's an answer filed. The town has never filed an answer. And also discovery, prerogative writ action is controlled by the court. And one of the problems we had in Bear Properties is that the township issued discovery requests prior to the court hearing. So they violate the court rules when they ask discovery, and we've been fighting for like 1.5 years about the discovery. As to the agenda tonight, and also I would like to talk about before, we're gonna have an ordinance updating the administrative code about meetings, changing the regular meeting time from 7:30 to 7. That occurred in April 2020 during COVID. Why did it take 2 years to change? Also at that April meeting is when you told the payments of 2 leases, that being the paper mill and Boxcar. The question is, when did the tolling period end and when will the different amount of monies be paid? As to the bill list, there's certain questions. I think because we're all talking about fair share housing, I think we should all have an accounting of since who knows when, how much will be paid to professionals, planners. Also, it seems to be through Oprah, we're finding out, when you look at the bill list, some of the requisitions have 21 on it, where certain bills delayed being processed. I know because of what the case is, because of the monies we had to pay in the case to the Sit Insure, there was like 25,000 in 2 different cases. They sat on the bills for more than a year. Also, there's something interesting that happens on this bill list. It's on the last few pages where we talk about trust monies. There's 2 different entries. One is, I think they call it T32. One shows monies like $5,000 coming in, and they list the monies going out. We've been always told when it comes to the food pantry that those are trust monies, but we never get the kind of accounting that's in this bill list regarding the pantry. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Feld.
Hi, Ben Stoller, 422 Wyoming. So a couple things. One, fair share housing, and what we've seen up here, really a dereliction of duty by everyone. I would like to ask for the public referendum to be put back on the agenda, see if we can get that, Ms. Miggins. I think the town residents who pay taxes should be able to decide on next steps on fair share housing. To date, they've been held out of all of the discussions. Second, not my issue, but because I'm already a HPC, my house is on the HPC list, but what Ms. Iglo said about 350 houses plus being added arbitrarily to our list, I think warrants some discussion and should be brought to the forefront. And last but not least, something of personal nature, I was just talking to Ms. Morano about it. Right below us on Myrtle and Cypress, right where the Wyoming school is. These people fly through that stop sign like there's no tomorrow. It's absolutely crazy. We should put up a camera, collect some type of license plates, because someone's gonna get hit. A kid's gonna get hit, a mother's gonna get hit, a father's gonna get, somebody's gonna get hit by a car. And for us to say that we did not know about it is not true, because I walked by there with my dog, and I almost got hit. It's absolutely crazy.
Myrtle, did you say Myrtle and Cypress?
Yeah, it's Myrtle, right? Myrtle and Cypress, right on that corner. And I talked to the crossing guard about it, and he said he almost got hit a couple times. It's not the bridge, it's one block up from the bridge. Right. So anyway, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hi, everybody. It's Christine Bass, 15 Fairfield Terrace, Short Hills. Richard, I want to say I really liked what you did with the downtown, holiday portion.
Thank you.
Really very beautiful and very tasteful.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I have a bunch of just issues that I just want to talk about. The first question I wanted to ask is I sent you all an extensive email on the November 27th. I got a response only from Maggie, and I would like somebody to respond, everybody on the committee, and tell me how many people read thoroughly to the end of the email in regards to my personal issue at 15 Fairfield Terrace with a generator installed. Thank you, on 11 Fairfield Terrace, because there is a sense of urgency, because if that woman puts it in, it may be in violation of New Jersey State Noise Control Act and in conflict with Milburn Township laws. And at least that's how, from a legal perspective, I read the laws. So I'd really just like to resolve it so I can move ahead and try to figure something out with the neighbor. She's non-responsive after many times. So I really appreciate that. And Maggie, I just want to address your issue. You sent me an email asking, or telling me that that I somehow inferred that you were involved in the purchases, a transaction. I don't know where you got that from my email, or if
The bottom of your email.
I will relook at that, but I know that Elaine Pruzan, unless you were involved in that sale, was involved in that sale, and I had no intention of communicating that, so maybe it's just the way I articulated it. So I just want to clarify that with you. So thank you for your comment. I do want to just bring up a couple issues with 5G. So I noticed that you guys all, somebody must have been involved in the facade approval on 340 Main Street over the 5G install. I think there's 2 carriers there. So I think that's great. It looks really nice and it's a great way to hide it, but it's also hiding it. So people don't know that they're standing under a 5G tower. And I do really think that you need to put a warning notice that's visible to people, because quite frankly, I don't really want to sit down in an igloo, no offense to, it was beautifully designed, below 5G radiation, not even for 20 minutes. I don't. And I want the town to go and measure that. I'd like you to tell me how much radiation is coming off that 5G tower versus the one down on Bleecker Street. Because we need a comparison on that, because we actually owe all residents, anybody even coming through the town, employees of the town, at least a warning notice. Like, so, hey, I'm going to stay out of downtown. And I would personally get rid of that, because when people start to realize that it's right there, they might not want to come to our town. We already have problems. We've got lots of vacancies. Our downtown part of it looks like pretty scary. So I just want to go over that. And then I also wanted to let you know, I think you guys had hired counsel, or somebody, Maggie, I think it was you or Mr. Vignac, that had said that you guys had hired counsel to establish resolutions in terms of standards for 5G rollout in our town. And I hope that that's going forward. And I was also sort of quasi invited to participate with Mr. McDonald by you, perhaps on the boardwalk when we were talking casually. I would like to participate in it, and I'd like to take that offer. So I hope that you reach out to me. And also, I did want to bring out to your attention, if you're unaware, they did install a small cell node at the corner of Hartshorn Road and Hobart Gap Road. I will be notifying the residents so they're aware that there is, I'm just going to go knock on their door and say, hey, you've got a 5G small cell node outside your door. So they're at least aware. Somebody needs to advise them. So I don't know if you're aware of those installations. I know there was a small cell right away that was done in 2018, I believe, but I think Tara, you said that there wasn't any, to your best of your knowledge, but I really think you guys need to start getting serious. I've been talking about this since June, I think, and we talk about safety issues with like people blowing through stop signs, which I think is very serious, but this is way more serious because you can't get away from it. And it's what it does is it'll slowly erode your health and you won't see it happen. So I just want to bring that up. And The last thing I just wanted to talk to you about really quickly is I also kind of got an invitation for Mr. Vignac on joining the Environmental Commission, and I would like to take you up on that offer. I would like to participate in that because I think the majority of the Environmental Commission's work is great, but it's more focused on things like let's have green poop bags, let's have LEED standards. Okay, it's great to have LEED quality installations in a building, but that's like small potatoes compared to like, I'm always about big wins, like what's gonna really save people's health, okay? So I think 5G is something that should be on that, and I also think visual things in this town should be on the Environmental Commission, because that eyesore that was at the Saks building, every time I drive by it, I just cringe. It's the most hideous entry coming into our town I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't know how anybody approved that design. So I just, not to rag on anybody, but just need to say that because it really bothers me and I'm a designer. So that's it. Thank you so much. And
I have
really
one point of clarification for you. You
Yes,
said
no problem.
Hobart Gap and Hartshorn. Do you mean White Oak Ridge and Hartshorn?
Oh, you know what? It's where Hobart Gap connects to White Oak Ridge. You know how like it's kind of, because Hobart Gap comes in and White Oak
Hobart,
Ridge kind of,
it's
it's like I
Hobart,
can never
Hobart.
tell where it starts.
Okay, but not Hartshorn. It's not Hartshorn. That's
Oh.
Hobart Gap.
No, it is Hartshorn. It's, isn't it by the school?
That's Hartshorn. That's then White Oak Ridge.
Okay, well, you know, you are the real estate broker, so you know better.
I just
I'm
want
just
to make
saying,
sure we have
I
the
know,
street
thank you
correct.
for absolutely. So, I mean, I had another comment, but, you know, I think you should talk to the township employees. I was actually at the dump the other day. They're unaware, or some of them are unaware that that's actually a heavy metal dump site. And I think that we, as a township, owe them some explanation or warning. So that's it. And thank you so much for all the work you do. I appreciate your time.
Elaine Becker, 257 Brookhaven Way. I heard the words Canoe Brook and overlay. And I wanted to bring up yet again, I would say, that Canoe Brook is an interesting piece of property. It's very large and it sits on the Buried Valley Aquifer. And I want to know if the township has looked into that. I don't know if it has changed at all. I suppose it's possible, but I don't think it went away. And it's not a site that should be built on, not the whole site. That's why what they have is closer to the road there. It's not in the back where they're playing golf. It's a perfect thing for a golf course to have that Buried Valley Aquifer there. And I would like to get some kind of information, shall we say, that it's been looked into and gone from the state. I still have, if you want anything, I still have. It's probably a little out of date, but I keep a lot of things, and that's one of the things that I have information about, and it may have changed, and I would really like the township to look into that before it comes up again.
Okay, and we'd like your information, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for your time. So it wasn't until October or November of 2020, the public was actually given the bill list backup.
Ms. Urso, would you just
Oh.
let everybody know who you are?
Hi, Perry Urso, 514 Milburn Avenue in Short Hills.
Thanks.
Yes,
For the
of course.
people listening.
You guys don't know who I am by now?
People listening at home.
I get you. So we weren't given the backup of the bill list until it was brought to the attention because of attorney resident Jeffrey Feld. The public was unaware until now the actual amounts that were being paid out, which brought me to do some research. Lots of it. And so I went onto the township website and to review some of the Milburn County of Essex report audits from not only 2000, I have in front of me 2014 to 2020, yes, because we don't have 21 yet. And when it wasn't until 2020 where there was a recommendation that, quote, during our examination of professional service contracts, it was found professional services were paid in the excess of their authorized contract amount. And a change order was not prepared to reflect the adjusted fees. A review also reveals that the change in procedure has been implemented, thank you, Mr. Feld, to date as of this audit. As a result, no formal recommendation is deemed warranted at this time, end of quote. What's more concerning, that in prior audit, no recommendations were made. In fact, the summary of recommendations clearly states that there are no recommendations in each and every one, and you can go back as far as 2014. It's accessible on your website. You got to search a little bit. So why is this important? Well, it was originally thought that there was a $2 million overpayment to the firm of Marizzi Falcone. However, by way of Oprah, it appears that we were wrong, and this amount is actually much higher. Notifications were sent to the township by Marizzi Falcone in March 2016 to March 2017, March 2018. No notice in 2019. Unlike what Mr. Marizzi stated last meeting, March 2020, and October 21, notifying the township that they have reached 80% of their retention cap. So I also did some homework and I spoke to Mr. Laritz. He's not here tonight, but I wanted to thank him for his time because I've been back and forth with Oprah's. But I have actual amounts from 2014 to today totaling $3,354,065.30. So, and there was only one change order received by way of Oprah in 2021. And that again was because of Mr. Feld, because the question is, how can we possibly make these payments without a change order? The only changes that were done are the annual resolution. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen in 2020, 2023. So my question is the business administrator, the CFO, are they the ones that actually sign these purchase orders? Because I actually Oprah'd it and I can't ask a question, but I never got the answer from last week till today. So I don't know, but maybe Mr. McDonald can answer that for me. Also, prior to Mr. Feld's request to have a complete packet available to the public, including the backup of all the bill lists, had this body have access to it? Because we didn't. But you township committee people sitting there, when you look at your agenda, and do you have a complete packet of the bill list? Because if a number stands out like $10,154, I mean, that would like open your eyes. I'm not talking about $278, but that would be kind of alarming to me. Should the public be concerned that we have 5 sets of eyes, plus our CFO, our BA, even the township attorney overseeing these charges over our retention cap? Who was responsible to prepare any and all change orders? How much actually was the township attorney paid over the retention cap without change order? Where does the liability for the overpayments to our attorney fall on? Would it be the township attorney themselves, the township administrator, the township CFO, our township committee, or our retained auditors? Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to Mr. Marizzi. I'm sure you have a lot to tell me tonight. And also just on another note about the, Ms. Best brought up about how beautiful you made downtown, Mr. Wasserman. Just remember you have 4 districts. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Good evening, Jean Pasternak, 342 Hobart Avenue. I have a question. Were RFQs issued for all of the 1-year appointments for 2023, including the municipal attorney, planner, planning board attorney, tax attorney, and so forth? Why is Attorney Buzak still employed by the township, given that he was asked to leave his role with the Fair Share Housing Negotiations representation? Just to be clear about a question that was asked by Jeff prior, is Boxcar currently paying the township rent? When were they given approval to not pay rent? By whom and for how long? Are they currently paying rent? I would like to thank Tara for being a true fiduciary of our public trust and continuing to expose the way this township committee leadership operates, not on behalf of our constituents here. Ms. Miggins, I know you're talking and not listening, but I'm directing my comments to you as
I'm
you've asked
listening
us
to you.
all to do. Okay,
I'm
you
listening
weren't,
to
you were talking. Anyway,
I can do two
we all have eyes, we can see. Ms. Miggins, are you being manipulative and secretive with the affordable housing negotiations with the way you discuss things with your colleagues this evening? What is your goal for the affordable housing settlement agreement? Why do you embarrass and shout down fellow committee members that you approved to take charge of new Fair Share Housing Council and moving forward with changes to the agreement based on the residents' grave concerns? They were given no voice prior to the TC's approval, and they spoke loudly against it. Ms. Eglo is correct. There is community-wide disapproval of the negotiated settlement agreement. Why would you abuse Ms. Prupus and Ms. Eglo, who stepped up to represent your constituents' desires for their community? This is a failure of your leadership. Tonight's failure of leadership is exactly why the community is sponsoring a recall effort of you, Ms. Miggins and Mr. Viniak. Good night.
Thank you. Jesse, we have people on the phone. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Regina Truitt, 385 Hartshorn Drive. Thank you all for your service. Hope you can hear me okay.
We can.
First, okay, great. First, I want to say thank you for the Zoom capacity. I currently have a respiratory illness, and I'm really grateful that you guys are conducting this meeting on Zoom so that all of us, like myself, and I'm sure dozens of other people in the community, can still participate in this meeting in spite of having a respiratory illness. Next, I want to congratulate Annette and Michael on their win. But mostly tonight, I want to urge that the Township Committee again consider developing a code of ethics and a code of conduct. Ms. Prupus's conduct again tonight was cringeworthy as I watched from home. I hope that you will be able to come to consensus regarding proper conduct so that your meeting can proceed in an orderly fashion and meet the needs of the Township Committee. Maggie, I commend you for keeping your cool. And thanks again to all of you for your service. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jesse, do you want to wait so Ms. Urso can speak? Ms. Urso.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Good evening, Dominique Urso, 514 Melbourne Avenue. We just got this notice in the mail for recycling notice grandfather and commercial businesses. I would like to know how many property owners or businesses got notified. When was the garbage company's new contract renewed? And can you please define grandfathering and how many businesses are grandfathered? Secondly, as someone home visiting from the holidays, I can't imagine what people out of town or visiting the mall or the town, whatever, downtown, Upper Middle Avenue for dining, shopping, whatever, feel about the amount of potholes and streets that are, you know, you could rip off a bumper or pop your tire easily. I just think that you should have maybe cones or something that people can see because it's hazardous. I've seen some accidents happen, or I've even seen the level of street and then dug up gravel. You can kind of have like a temporary stone that takes that ridge off because again, there just can be accidents with cars from that. So cones or something just to help you drive, especially in weather like this today. And I couldn't even imagine if that was snow and ice too. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Urso.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Stephanie Morgan. I live at 49 Greenwood Drive in Millburn. I just wanted to say something about fair share housing. I know a lot's been said, and I'm going to try to be really brief and to the point. I think it's frightening that a matter of this import is being dealt with in what appears to be a pretty disorganized manner. What concerns me is that I still don't understand if we do or we don't have an extension on the December 16th date. And I have been really trying to pay attention. If we don't have an extension, any conversation about transparency, community involvement, and so on is really moot. I mean, we're 10 days away, and it sounds like we haven't really had a constructive conversation with our Fair Share Housing Council. I think modifying the settlement agreement based on what I know about fair share housing with full community involvement prior to December 16th is basically not viable. And even with an extension of the court date, if in fact we have one or can get one, it would be a fairly short extension. And during this time, I personally think the most productive thing that could be done is for the entire Township Committee to meet with Fair Share Housing Council and our professionals to evaluate options and viable strategy. That's, we've entrusted you guys to be smart about this. And then if there needs to be a special hearing to report out to the community what you think is possible and or probable, and what an appropriate strategy would be, there would be transparency without chaos. And I'm hoping that we'll find our way to that. I would also really like to know whether the hearing is in fact on the 16th. If it is there going to be opportunity for the community to, listen to it or participate in some way, as there was, I think originally when it was October 26th, there was a way for us to get a webinar connection. But I think that we're tight to the wire here. And I think I would certainly like to know where we stand and what we're planning on doing about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's Fran Feld at 948 Ridgewood Road. Hope everybody is well. I just first better ask you a question before I speak. I see that the Taylor Park Gateway issue is at the bottom of the list here, or towards the bottom. And I really think it's silly for me to say something before I know what the latest updates are. Will I be able to comment after we're given the update?
No.
No. So I'm basically now going to comment on old news from weeks ago, correct?
Correct.
All right, well, that makes me feel pretty silly and dumb, but I guess, I'll do the best I can. So this is basically how I feel about the Gateway project. I feel like I did about Complete Streets, that the town has old infrastructure and it could use a refresh. And they did that with Complete Streets in terms of the planters, the benches, the flowers and everything else, the lights across Main Street. I was all for that, but then they went overboard and we all know that story. So with the Taylor Park Gateway, I think that obviously I don't know whether you guys are going to go ahead, whether you thought 1.8 million is folly for something so small, not the whole town, not the whole park. I think that it would be, I'd like you to think about this expenditure and other things that might be taken piecemeal are not financially responsible way to manage a township's budget, in my opinion. I think we need a long-term financial plan for the capital maintenance and improvement of Millburn Short Hills, the way we all do as homeowners. Like I don't do my kitchen, my bathroom, my rear porch and everything else, put on a new roof all in 1 year. We do have a budget and we figure out what could be done here in our home. But of course we want to improve it. We'd love to improve Taylor Park, but I think it needs to stay within a bigger, some kind of bigger plan. And the other last thing I'll say is, instead of waiting for people to take advantage of our town with these huge numbers, like 1.8 million, why don't you think about what you want done in that little bit of area, so-called gateway to Taylor Park? Like, how much are you willing to spend? $500,000, $750,000? Why don't you have a bogey for them and say to them, why don't you tell me how much money we want to spend, and then what can you do for that money? That's the way a lot of people handle expenses, right? You know, my husband's an architect, and sometimes people will say, well, what's your budget? And also I have to say, even if you go to the wine library for a bottle of wine, they'll say, well, you want a Pinot Noir. Okay, how much do you want to spend? That's all these things to think about. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell. I will now close the public comment period. At this time, our professionals and committee members may directly answer any questions made by the public. Please only directly answer questions that you may wish to comment on, and do not request that of other members or professionals. This is not a time for dialogue or to debate a matter. Members of the public may contact the township or township committee at any time outside of our business meetings. Thank you. I will now start with our business administrator, Mr. McDonald. Are there any comments you wish to address?
Yes. To Ms. Cruz, the graffiti at the corner of Spring and Milburn was taken care of, and we will certainly be able to take care of the Jersey barrier and replace that. You know, we have alerted JCPL multiple times to their property, which is theirs to take care of, and we will continue that as well. I understand your feelings on it. I just also would really like them to be responsive and do the work on their property. The intersection of Myrtle and Cypress, I will bring to the attention of the police department, and I hope that you will as well, if you haven't already. I think that it is important that, you know, when we have issues, certainly this is a place to bring them, but also we have departments and we have SDL on the township's website that allows us to make complaints and give concerns in a specific way so that we can address them, such as what streets have potholes and or, you know, maybe milled and paved at the time. And of course, people should be taking caution around those intersections. I would just ask if I could speak to Ms. Best after the meeting, if she's still here, regarding the intersection of Hartshorn and Hobart, because I think we need to be certain that that is a 5G small cell technology and that it's not something else that's at that intersection. I'm not aware of 5G small cell technology at that intersection. I do know that the township has received another application for the intersection of Parsonage Hill and JFK. And generally those need to go before the township engineer as part of that ordinance from 2018 that you spoke about. They will come then before the township committee, just as they did with the other ones that were located on White Oak Ridge Road towards Parsonage Hill. I do not, and again, I would love to have this conversation, understand that that the current DPW is a heavy metal dump site and that our employees are unaware of that. I think that opens up a massive can of worms, and I would love to have that conversation and how that is known. To Ms. Urso, which I did not actually report on, which I will report on, is that we had discussed multiple times about lot 14. And that we would eventually be going to those property owners and those business owners to discuss the improvements. We have received a preliminary design of that, and so in January we'll be setting up a meeting in January for all of you to have that discussion with the engineer as well as the engineering department. And to answer the question about the garbage for commercial businesses, the township privatized garbage in 2008. Since that time, some businesses have been grandfathered. Many of them have changed hands, and when they did change hands, they were asked and ordered by the planning board to get their own commercial garbage collection. And for many, all but 40 at this point, according to the list that we have, all but 40 have done so. And so if you think about the number of businesses that we have in this community and the number that are currently paying for their own private trash collection, that was the decision point. We were at a number that we felt was capable of making that switch to have those businesses get their private trash collection. There are some that may or may not, they may already have their own private trash collection on this list. But again, I think now is the time to make that switch and create some parity and equity between those commercial properties.
Mr. McDonald,
Yeah.
how many commercial properties do we have in town?
Oh, Mr. Wasserman might, it's probably,
I think it was 500.
well,
500?
businesses
It
is
depends-
different
it
than
depends how
commercial. We
you-
have 233 commercial properties, but as far as businesses go,
Yeah,
I mean, that's
businesses
in the,
that have to pay for their own.
that's
I
probably
mean,
in the
that's a
ballpark.
Steve Grillo question. I
500.
thought it was like maybe 500.
Mhm, correct.
Alex, can I have one, I'll follow up when you're done.
Yeah. And so that is the extent of what I wanted to address.
Okay.
Can I ask Alex a question? Alex, didn't we engage a consultant for the 5G issue?
Oh, yeah, we did. And so Hoplite currently is working on, they're going to assist us as Ms. Best had said, with a 5G ordinance as well as a 4G ordinance. They are also looking at what current cell locations we have and the current coverage in the township, as well as they will be working on, although it will take some time, creating a map for the township that provides those cell locations with the most current safety data available for those cell locations.
Can we invite them to a meeting to give us, to present on this on 5G or at some point? I mean, we've already retained them, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, they're the town's consultant. So I think that I agree with Ms. Best that there is there is an issue that we should address, as you go forward. We have a consultant, and I certainly, I mean, I may not be here, but I certainly would like to hear what the consultant says in terms of safety and strategy and policy going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Molman, anything? No. Mr. Marizini?
Yes, I welcome the opportunity to respond to the questions that have been raised by Ms. Urso and others over time on this topic that is totally misunderstood. The allegation has been made that our firm owes the township of Millburn now I hear $3 million. And what's the basis of that allegation? The basis of that allegation is that there were not change orders that were adopted by the township committee to change the language in our contract that, going back to 2014, called for a retainer of $100,000 a year at that time. The way the contract worked back then was that it provided that once 80% of $100,000 had been reached, a notice would go to the township committee that that number had been reached. Because the number was so artificially low, $100,000 is a very low number to provide the legal services for multiple tasks for representing this municipality. That number was reached early in the year. So what happened after that? The work continued at the request of the township. The work was performed at the request of the township. The work was satisfactorily provided by our firm. So what of the change order then? What is a change order? A change order is a resolution of the governing body to authorize that more money be paid. So what did the township committee do instead of a change order? You're right, change orders were not adopted. Something else was. Every meeting, bill lists were approved that contained payments, approval of payments for the work that was provided by our firm for that prior month. Those resolutions are tantamount to change orders. They're the very same thing in effect. They're approval by the governing body of the payment of the funds to the municipality, to the firm. I've looked into this because we've received the repeated Oprah requests on this topic. We've done research in the case law, and the case law is clear. Under such circumstances, there's no basis for a court to order a repayment of funds for services that actually have been rendered and have been approved, the payments have been approved. So I hope this puts this question to rest. I doubt very much that it will. I see people shaking their head no in the audience. But that's the fact. The payments have been legally approved by the governing body, each and every single one, every single dollar of that $2 million or $3 million or whatever number it is, has been approved by a vote of this township.
I would just like to add to that, just one aspect of the change in the number is that if the township committee recalls, and maybe the public recalls, at the beginning of last year, I had presented regarding legal expenses. And one of the factors in those legal expenses was the fact that Mr. Marizitti's firm was obligated to represent the township in cases that should have been covered by the township's insurance carrier. At that point, we had to arbitrate against the insurance carrier for that coverage. And while those fees are seen as an expense to Marizitti Falcon, that they were also reimbursed once arbitration awards were given to the township based on those cases. So the line item or the cost or the overall cost for those legal fees.
Anything else? Nothing further. Ms. Prupus?
Yes. So I'm gonna just address what happened at the top of the meeting. I'm gonna do it a little bit more calmly. I'm gonna take my time because I feel like I walked into a battlefield tonight. And I was not expecting that. And clearly, Maggie had prepared to come into attack tonight with her questions and her concerns. So I wasn't at the last meeting, it got switched, right? So we were supposed to have a meeting on election night and then it was on the went to the 14th and I had already had a trip plan, so I wasn't here, but 4 people on this committee hired an attorney. And then they had when we were interviewing, I sent emails to the entire township committee urging them to participate and got silence back. And then we planned a closed session for, let's see, 14th, 13th till the 11th, which was the Friday before the Monday meeting. And I believe that it was, and they were all, it was all going fine, and at the last minute got canceled. And I couldn't understand why the rest of the township committee wouldn't want to be involved in discussing who we were going to hire to deal with the fair share housing settlement. But there was no closed session. So, and Diane and I spent a lot of time meeting with the different attorneys, and so did Alex, and interviewing them and having follow-up discussions. So then it was questioned whether or not the attorney was going to get hired, and everybody knew that I wasn't going to be here. And I heard that the attorney got hired. And then so we needed to start working on something. And as the subcommittee, we were tasked to do that. And in those conversations, again, Alex, make sure that everybody knows what's going on. And then we were supposed to have a closed session tonight to have that conversation. So had we had that conversation, and one of the things with the attorney, Mr. Cantor knows how important it is to this community to have transparency, and he has been paying attention, and how much everybody wants to have a voice in these, in the negotiations, or as much input as possible. And so in that closed session, what we would have talked about tonight, had we had the closed session, and I'm not sure why we didn't have the closed session, because we were all here and we could have even had Michael and Annette come and all the previous years, we've had closed sessions in both meetings before in December, at least since I've been on the committee, with the newly elected committee people come in and they start getting engaged and up to date and involved in these conversations because they're gonna be here next year representing the community. And we're all sitting here, we could have all been here an hour beforehand. I have no idea why. No idea why, and perhaps we could have had Mr. Cantor Zoom in. He couldn't be here tonight because there's a medical procedure tomorrow and it was unexpected that he had to have more preparation than planned. And that happened, but we could have worked around it. And there was ample time to set, and we could have even had, tomorrow morning, we can have a special emergency close. Could we do it tomorrow morning? Could we close, can we call, how soon can we do a special emergency closed session?
I can't, I have a previous committee.
I'm not saying, I'm just wondering, how much time does it take
Well,
to do a special closed session, emergency meeting?
the question is whether it constitutes an emergency.
Does it? Could it?
Well, I mean.
Well, the 16th is coming close, so I think it's an emergency. The 16th is coming, and potentially we might not get an adjournment right? So, I mean, I think that could be an emergency. I don't know if anybody else up here agrees with me. So that could have all happened. So whatever the questions were, there was ample time for them to be addressed. And that is all that I need to convey. Because everybody sitting up here, and including Sanjeev, who I spoke to, had all the opportunity to be involved in this process, in this really important process that all of us need to deal with as a full township committee. So I do think that we should have a special emergency meeting before the 16th. I think this is really important. I think that all of us and Michael and Annette should be talking about it so that we can give our attorney direction. I do not think that that's Alex's job to do that on his own. And I feel like I was ambushed tonight. And so to Regina Truitt, who called me out, and I think a few other people who think I was too emotional, when I am being attacked and feel like I'm being set up to look like I did something wrong, when I know in my heart I did nothing wrong. I worked hard and listened to the community. I've been asking for a year to go back and renegotiate it. So when I feel like someone came in here, start attacking me, and my heart starts pounding because I literally feel like I'm being attacked, it is very hard for me to just sit down and take it. So Regina, I'm sorry if you saw me get emotional, but, and no buts, I'm sorry if you saw me get emotional, and I just don't want to be attacked anymore. I don't want to come into the township committee and have kind of all these, oh, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna show how you're not doing the right thing or how you didn't do what you said you were gonna do, because that's all I've been doing up here, very transparently. And last year, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I guess my point is, this full township committee, including the newly elected, I believe needs to have a special emergency meeting to discuss this, because it is an emergency, because the 16th is right around the corner in 10 days. And what are we gonna go to the judge with if it doesn't get pushed back? So does anyone else agree that that's an emergency and we should have an emergency meeting with Jared Kenter as soon as possible?
If we can pull it together, I think it constitutes an emergency, because we don't control the judge. If the judge doesn't want to give us an extension, she doesn't. If she wants to, she will. And we cannot control when she's going to respond to us.
Right, what we do know is that Fair Share Housing and the special master, Frank Banish, both approved and gave their endorsement for having an adjournment and for a delay. We don't know how long that is, but including Sanjeev, so the 7 of us, I think need to meet with our attorney and with Graham and with Alex as soon as possible to figure out what we're gonna do. Because this cannot just rest on me and Diane. I mean, that is absurd. And I have done everything. I cannot drag the other committee members to a meeting. I can send in emails. I cannot force them to respond. And so, again, Regina Truitt, I'm sorry if I offended you tonight, and that is sincere. And to the rest of the township committee, the township of Millburn, I'm doing everything I can possibly do to try to right what was wrong in the settlement. But I can't do it alone. So thank you for listening to me.
Mr. Bosserman, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. Ms. Egler.
Hi, so yeah, it's in the past, we have always met with the new elected official because we're supposed to be discussing who's gonna be on committees next year. Ms. Best, Mr. Sanjeev might have steered you to believe you would be put on environmental commission, but that has to be decided as a committee or the mayor, I think, I don't know, but I mean.
That's mayoral.
Oh, maybe he thinks he's gonna be mayor. Oh, okay then. Mr. Stoller, I hope that the town, and yeah, because you know what it is, sunshine laws, 3 of us can't meet, but 2 of them can meet with 2 of them. So maybe they've having things decided. I don't know, but you guys have a big task ahead of you. I did congratulate you publicly on Facebook. I am glad you 2 won. If it couldn't be me, then it'd be you. Okay. Because the other way, I don't know, Mr. Feld and your minions, I don't know, can't speak to that anymore. Miss Best, I did read your whole letter. I didn't respond. I didn't have an appropriate answer solution that has to go above me to township, the building, the engineer, or the county. I don't know who does that. That's not me. Regina, I don't know if you're still listening, but your insult to Tara was completely unwarranted. It was all 5 of us who are 4 of us are behaving a certain way because we're all very equally frustrated up here. So please, to call one of us out is just really wrong. Stephanie, I said we can't, tell the judge how to respond to Fran Feld. The park needs upgrading, as does much of our town's infrastructure. It has to start somewhere, but the park, the gateway, has to be aesthetically fixed and safety. It is not safe. It's cracked and coming down. We've discussed all this. And as far as stop signs, I live in the corner of Greenwood and Beach Terrace. I watch out my window as people fly through every stop sign in South Mountain section. And unfortunately then, it is us, the residents. It is our own residents flying through our own neighborhoods. I've been saying that up here for years. I am watching people park in South Mountain because they don't want to walk a block with their children. They just park. I sent it to Alex. And when I'm not on the committee, I will send it to the SDL because I won't have the direct link anymore. But the fact that our residents are parking on the curve, on the yellow line, in front of a stop sign and in front of a no parking sign blows my mind. And South Mountain, if you're listening, Ms. Sherman, I know you're probably listening, put that out in your South Mountain site, that our own South Mountain residents can walk 1 block with their children, because I almost got in a head-on collision, which is why I reached out to Alex, because the moms, and it's all moms, because I stopped and waited for them, are parked where they're not allowed to park. So of course, anyway, it's so frustrating. I don't know if we can have cameras, but one of my kids said to me, why don't I get like a fake ticket book and say, ticket from deputy mayor? You can't keep behaving this way in your own town. It's just, it's not right. So I don't know if folks ever watching, Ms. Sherman, I would ask you to please put that on the South Mountain site. To walk a block, your children can walk a block in the rain. Really can happen. We don't melt. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, wait, one more thing. And I did ask Alex, get the cops out and start ticketing these moms and dads, because I think 1 ticket would really be a discouragement, at least for a month. And then you'll forget and you get another ticket. So that's my.
Mayor, I was just gonna say, when you're done, Alex, could we take a 2-minute break?
Yeah, as soon as Alex is finished, yes.
So just to address a couple other things that I had not addressed. One is the question was about why Mr. Buzak is still employed by the township. That is the planning board decision. He is hired by the planning board, so he is their attorney. So that will be their decision. The question was asked about the boxcar paying rent. Yes, the boxcar has been paying rent They were given as a part of their lease, force majeure during the COVID shutdown. And once COVID restrictions were lifted, they were immediately paying rent again for that space. Huh? I don't, Jeff, a lot going on. Certainly it was, the force majeure was provided during, by resolution. And we can look at when they, when we reestablished, their rent.
5-minute break.
Yep.
5-minute break. And we're back. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing the break. The Township Committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda?
None from me.
None? Ms. Prupus? Mr. Wasserman?
No.
No, okay. May I have a motion to approve resolutions 22-243 through resolution 22-247, which are listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal-Eglow?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now will have ordinance 2622-22. Mr. Wasserman is scheduled to sponsor.
Yeah, thank you. Procedure, I present for consideration ordinance entitled ordinance number 2622-22, an ordinance to vacate an existing drainage easement located at 801 Ridgewood Road, known as Block 606, Lot 15 in the Township of Milburn, Essex County, New Jersey. Tonight is time set for public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with the law.
I declare the hearing open.
Okay. Alex, you'll fill us in?
Yeah, this is a easement on 801 Ridgewood Road that the township no longer needs. We had already placed another easement on the other side of the house. So this is an abandonment of the old easement.
And procedurally, we're supposed to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any comments?
I move that this public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on the final reading, and the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title as passed on the final reading in accordance with the law.
May I please have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal-Eglow?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 2623-22. Ms. Thal-Eglow, you are scheduled to sponsor this.
I present for consideration ordinance entitled ordinance number 2623-22, ordinance amending chapter 2 administration of the Milburn Township Ordinance Code. The ordinance to revise existing requirements concerning the time at which the township committee meetings will take place. The meetings have been changed to 7 o'clock since COVID. It's now being formalized, and that's when we're doing it. We're doing it tonight, formalized.
I declare the hearing open.
I move that this public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and the township committee be directed to publish the ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with law.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal-Eglow?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 2624-22. Procedure for passing the ordinance on final reading is ordinance revising and supplementing the salaries and salary ranges of offices and positions in the classified and unclassified civil service positions of the Township of Milburn, County of Essex for the years 2021-2026. And the purpose of this ordinance is to amend the salaries and salary ranges of offices and positions in the classified and unclassified civil service positions of the Township of Milburn for the years 2021 through 2026. Some ranges are established by collective bargaining agreements with unionized employees of that township. Additionally, some agreements do not extend to 2026 and will have no salary range shown for that year. Tonight is the time set for the public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with the law. I declare the hearing open. I move that this public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and that the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with law. May I please have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thal-Eglow?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ordinance 2628-22. Ms. Thal-Eglow, you are scheduled to sponsor this.
I present for consideration an ordinance for final read entitled ordinance number 2628-22, ordinance amending chapter 7 traffic
of the revised general ordinances in the Township of Milburn. The proposed amendment to Chapter 7 Traffic of the Milburn General Code is intended to address several recommendations of the Parking Ad Hoc Committee, included but limited to the establishment of stop signs for several off-street municipal parking lots, to modify the no red on red at Ridgewood Road and Main Street and reconfigure Lot 2 type counts. So, I mean, there's a lot in here, but I think we went over it the last time. Yeah, so it's all listed now, it's being finalized.
So I declare the hearing open.
Jeffrey Feld. I have a question. It really is not to, you're making changes to various things, but the cost of implementing these changes, like new signs, the EV chargers, were they included in this year's budget or will that be included in next year's budget? I'm just asking a question because there are costs associated with what you're doing because you're changing signs, new signs have to be made. Has that money been appropriated, was it anticipated, or will that come out of next year's budget?
Certainly this money was not anticipated as this ordinance came up later on in the year. However, we do have some level of funding available in our sign budget, but there are other larger projects like the deck that will take some funding in next year's budget. There's no EV, there's no charging stations being implemented with this, so there's no cost there. The only thing that is cost generative in this is signage.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I already put it away, hold on. Oh, I move that the public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with law.
May I please have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Prupus,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Thought-Eglo,
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman,
Yes.
Mayor Miggins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to old business. The Affordable Housing Citizen Committee, Ms. Prupus, did you get a copy of this? Did anyone have any questions about the language on the resolution for the Citizens Committee?
Does anybody want this committee?
Well, I have a question. I just want to ask my question. On number number E, yeah, we did bring it up at the, maybe you were out when I brought it up at the last meeting, but it did come up at the board, and we did discuss it. And the board was just concerned that this was not part of Explore's scope, to be involved with this. If you look at all the good work that Mr. Grillo and Amanda are doing in the town, I mean, they spend hours and hours planning, all these events and igloos and s'mores and, and other things. This just would take a lot of time of his, and we didn't think it was really part of the charter for him to spend his time doing this.
I think we decided the last meeting. so-
Yeah,
My apologies, it's not revised there, yes,
Yeah.
but
It's
it needs
just
to
on
be
there.
revised.
Still on there. I don't know if it would, I thought it would have been taken off, but.
No, it should.
Okay. Those were my comments.
Were there any other comments?
It's at 12. Oh wait, isn't it
So,
8, 9, 10, 11, 12? Yeah, do we want to put 2 Board of Ed people on instead of 1?
Do we know whether they would do that?
We don't. Should we find that out and get back to us on this?
And I also made a comment last time about environmental, we have, without going in detail, you have Woodmont, you have the watershed, you have a lot of other issues that may be discussed again. And I think we need an environmental person on there to advocate for our watershed.
That's a good one too.
You currently have 11 members on that with the removal of the SID director
6, 7.
or their designated.
Should we only have one member of the Township Committee rather than 2 though?
No, I think you always have to have 2.
Why?
Because I think it's important to have more than just one voice from the Township Committee, the 5 people. You can't have more than 2. because that would be breaking the sunshine laws. But I think it's important to have two people, two different perspectives, and that come back and report on it to the larger township committee.
Well, we only have one person on Cora Hartshorn. We only have one member from the TC to
I
Cora
would
Hartshorn.
not relate the Arboretum, which we do nothing on, I served on that, to this. But if you just want one person on it, you should do it, that's fine.
No, no.
I do not think, I think it's inappropriate to have one township committee member on this committee.
Well,
I
this
think it should
committee,
be two.
this committee is hopefully will be working if there's a modification, but it's also for the 2025 obligation
Right.
coming before us. So it actually is a really big deal. Now, will this committee, how much bite will they have in anything happening? That will be up to you guys, but you know, there are things that have to be done at somewhat level in confidence with an attorney. You can take the advice of residents, but
I think this committee is really important. I think that what we saw in terms of the larger community having any awareness of what was going on, I think that this committee would at least help disseminate information and should be a part of representing the community voices. So if that's 8, 9, 10, 11, but if we put someone, if the Board of Ed, Alex, can you please reach out to them and ask them if they will be on it? I mean,
Yes.
have you had any conversations?
I have not.
Okay, can you do that? And then to the Board of Ed president, and then if they don't do it, then we put someone from we ask the Environmental Commission. And I suspect that they will be happy, somebody from there will be happy to serve.
Last time the Board of Ed didn't want to sit on it.
Yeah, just when we did this last time, they went into, I think, executive session and they said.
No.
Well, why don't we give them the
Yeah, I'm
opportunity
not
to do
saying
that?
that.
And
Sure,
Alex will
sure,
reach out to Alex and
Yeah, you can.
and then
But she's off
But
today.
she's,
off.
her term is ended.
Her term is finished.
Yeah.
but there's
Okay.
3 new
Or Dr.
people.
Burton.
I'll reach out to
Maybe
Dr.
Dr.
Burke.
Burke.
That's a more
Okay,
appropriate touch
That's
point.
perfect, and then so that, I mean, so that we can start populating this for next year. Can you let us know so that we can have a resolution to vote on at the next meeting? Alex,
Of course.
okay, whether or not they will do it, and if not, we'll ask the Environmental Commission. And then,
take it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Taylor Park Gateway proposal, Mr. McDonald, did you want to talk about that?
Yes, at the last meeting, the Township Committee, after the presentation by MKW, had asked me and Jesse to go back to MKW Associates and discuss the idea of value engineering the project at the Gateway, which was in their presentation initially $1.8 million. We did that. We had a discussion with them shortly after the meeting, and much of the discussion circled around the furniture that is involved in this project, the gazebo, the gateway arch, benches, things like that, as an opportunity for the municipality to decrease those costs. I provided the Township Committee with 3 options that they had provided. Option A, which came in very similarly, if not, that's the same, right? Correct, Jesse? That's the same option, sorry. Option B, which came in at 1.592, and option C, which came in at 1.489. That's with all the contingencies. Base contract, base total of that option C is 1.2, and the base total of the option B is 1.3. And again, much of this circled around the furniture in the park. We did have a discussion also about stormwater management in that, which was valued in the original proposal at $125,000, and some of those other items. I feel like, again, much of that initial proposal was conservative in the sense that, they wanted to make sure that it was not understated in the event that a project went out and it was fairly expensive with construction costs now. But those are the options or what was brought back to us at the request of the Township Committee in terms of value engineering the project. And certainly at this point, we would just look for direction on where the committee thinks that this should go.
Can I see this?
Alex, can I make a statement?
The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I should say mayor. Anyway, I was, if we remember, and I don't know if ever, we live on such a short, news cycle. This came out of a visioning plan that Tara and I set up. That's kind of where Gateway was born. From what I know. And the point of the Gateway, the point of Gateway and the point of the vision plan was to open up and make it the gateway to the township. That was the thrust of the plan. And, and I think that maybe, and I don't want to take anything away from professionals and the volunteers who work so hard on this and they spend hours and hours on this. But from where I sit, I just think that we have it almost a little backwards. I think that what we really should do and do it is to open up the front. I'll throw out a number, and I know it sounds a little arbitrary, although I've spoken to Alex, I've spoken to a few people. Maybe we can agree on $300,000. And I'm not saying that this is like the last word on this and that this is the plan, but maybe we can agree on $300,000. Let's get it done. Let's take away, let's redo the front. Let's open it up, take down the gate that's there. Let's open up the front. Let's add some lighting. Maybe you can fix the gazebo, and maybe that could be a starting point, and maybe that could be a number that is not outrageous, and maybe that could be an initial, opening of our park. Maybe that could be our initial gateway. But if you ask me, I think that we can come up with a budget that's doable, that we can manage, and that could be an initial thrust into getting this work done.
So you would not want to include making the entrance down ADA compliance and leveling that out of it?
I'm just saying, I would want to do that. I would want to make it ADA compliant, yes, and I would like to add some lights. But when it comes to all the extras and the and the bricks and all the things that really add up and the expense of it, I just don't know whether at a 1.5 or $1.8 million price tag, whether there's going to be an agreement on our committee to go forward with it. But I would say that for a smaller amount, if you had a lower goal, which is to open up the park and to do what the visioning plan had, the thrust of the visioning plan is to make it the gateway to the town, open up that front, so that's where I'm coming from. And again, I do know that committee spent a lot of time, and I don't want to take anything away. And I think we could spend a lot more money on the park, and I hope we do. But just as an initial amount of money this year, let's agree to get it done, give Alex a budget and tell him to get it done.
Anything?
So what would that look like? Let's just say,
I'm just talking, I'm just saying, and I want to give credit to Fran Feld, who I don't always agree with, but Fran had kind of struck a chord with me that a lot of times when you go into a project, if you're a homeowner, you say, okay, I have a 50,000, I have 20,000, I have 100,000, whatever I'm going to spend. They work backwards, as maybe in this case we should say, what's an amount of money that we could live with that's responsible to our constituents, that'll do what the vision plan had in mind, which is to open it up and bring people and have more people come see the roses and enjoy our parks and have lunch. I think that's something that's doable. But again, it's an arbitrary amount of money.
well, so Alex, our DPW, is that something that
I mean, that the DPW could work on?
I think it is dependent upon the scope. You know, look, I'm not gonna commit to DPW that they can, you know, tear up concrete or tear up asphalt and lay ADA compliant, you know, paths and things like that. But I think what Mr. Wasserman is talking about is that, you know, there's the ability to say, hey, you could say that these are the priority items that you want to address within that area of the park, lighting, ADA compliance, things like that. Some clearing of trees, which certainly.
Take down that fence.
Yeah. Yep, take down the fence, you know, create, you know, so those things you could look at and say, you know, rather than giving the blank canvas, which I think is where we attempted, and that was a discussion. I want to be fair to MKW and I want to be fair to Jesse and everybody that was a part of that process. The process was a blank canvas in that part of the park, you know, what would you do? Right. And so, but if you were going to go a different route and provide a number and say, this is where we went, then I think you have to prioritize the tasks with which you want to accomplish in that area of the park, which could be, again, the ADA compliance, the lighting, things like that, some plantings, things like that.
Well, I think we could give a little bit of a bigger number. I just feel like our town is stagnating when all the towns around us are beautifying and working on projects and doing things. I mean, look, Fran, I'm friends with Fran, and I get it. You know, Fran was on the total other end of the park. So the park doesn't belong to any one of us. The park belongs to the town. And the park belongs to the people who come into our town. And I think we are just being really short-sighted, say, okay, well, listen, the project started with Jesse and I was talking 5 years ago about just doing what you said, Richard.
Yep.
And then you did the vision plan and it expanded.
Yep.
And it became, we listened to the community. We were never, like I said, rip out the roses. They had different plans. The roses will stay, but I think it's really important that you clean up those pathways. You know, so you're gonna have like, okay, so I'll get a new refrigerator, new stove, but I'm gonna have like really crappy cabinets still. I'm gonna have a linoleum floor that's peeling up. It's like, you know, I say do it the project, do it correctly, invest a little money into our town. You know, we have all this money in the town because we don't do anything. Look where our residents are sitting. Look at the condition of this meeting room. It's just absurd to me. I'm not going to be here next year, but I would love to leave something else that we are moving forward in a really positive direction for our town and beautifying our park. And, you know, the whole park, which is open, people say, do things in the other part of the park. Well, the other part of the park is meant for soccer and people to picnic, and that's all fine. And the Beautification League, I think it is, or TBL is going to plant a lot of trees.
Right.
So the garden club, they're going to be planting a lot of trees on the other side of the park. So everything gets addressed, but to keep stopping because the price tag was a little high. He came down, you know, he's not going to put an archway because that's not emerging, you know, an archway right now. But to just fix Milburn Avenue and leave all the cracked asphalt surrounding the rose garden.
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
my idea is just as a start, like in other words, let's say I know that this is more.
You don't think our town can afford $1 million?
I mean, I'm just saying that I've talked to our neighbors or constituents, people are calling me saying, you know, 1.5, 1.8, you know, that's just, you know, I just think that people think that that's a large amount to spend, although I think it is, I don't disagree with you that it's a good place to spend our money, but maybe as a way to get this started, we spend that amount just to do the front of Milburn Avenue, and then whoever's here later, they take over the ball and do the next part of it. And I think Bauer Center, I think Bauer Center is a tremendous opportunity for us down the road.
I know, but people
That's a
flip out.
tremendous expense. I mean,
I know, but I'm just saying, but if you have a choice, let's say you're gonna spend all this money on Bauer Center, you're gonna do all these things in the park, which I agree with long-term. I mean, how do we get it started? And
Well, you know, Richard, when I brought up at a few meetings ago an open space trust fund, I was accused of taxing our residents. I don't know, $100. If every resident were chipping in $100, it's not a lot of money considering how expensive it is. Life is expensive, and it is up to us, the Township Committee, to make our town wonderful. And we're just afraid because a few people say, don't spend any money. you've got to spend some money to make things better. Things are getting old, things are breaking down. The gazebo, they spend every year, they, potchkey it up and they paint it and they nail some new wood boards, but it's still kind of crappy, I'm sorry. But the Roses, the women and the men of that group, they take a lot of their own time, but everything around it is falling apart. So if we can't invest $1 million of a town of our caliber, I think that's really short-sighted, and I think that's really sad. So, I mean, we want to spend $300,000 to fix up safety at the Turtles train station. That's not a lot of money either, but it all has to be done, like your house has to be kept up. Because you go to sell it, Maggie knows you're not gonna get the price because you haven't done anything to your house. This is our town, it is our, I believe, if we hadn't done the turf field and we pushed that through with an emergency meeting, and some people got a little freaked out at the money, that turf field is so utilized. And it did cost $1 million, but oh my God, what an amazing investment of $1 million. So I am saying we can invest $1 million in the top part of our park, and that's what I'm gonna say. Don't do a half-ass, sorry, don't do it right. Like, folks, we can spend, look, our lights are going out. We have to spend money on lights. I mean, come on. We can do this if we want. The lights are on. Anyway, that's my stump. I think we can invest $1 million in the top part of our park. And I hope my committee members who still have a vote here.
So
would agree
I
with
might
that.
make a suggestion. We'll all be here at the next township committee meeting. Why don't we bring it back up again and all 5 of us can vote on it at that point?
I'm just saying, it's not $1 million, it's Alex, how much was the lowest amount?
1-4.
It was 1-4 total.
With contingencies.
Yeah, but that was with the contingencies, so the base total was 1,231,000.
And was there a way to go back to them and be like, all right,
We'll
like,
give you $1 million.
how do we get this to like a different number where we just do the start of it? Let's say like, is that a possibility to go back and like?
I mean, I'm sure we can have a conversation. However, but I think what you need to really, at that point, you also need to decide what it is that you really want to do.
And again, I'm just saying as an initial increment, I understand what Diana's saying, and I do sympathize with what you're saying. But for $1.4 million, and I mean, a lot of people think that's a lot of money, but I would say just as an initial thing to do what the vision plan said and open it up, make it ADA compliant, put some lights in, get it started, and go from there. And then maybe next year we can do the next increment for another 300,000 or 400,000. I know it's not, it's incremental, but I think from what I'm hearing, a lot of our constituents would be happier that way.
So Alex, because if Richard's willing to do this, can you, and I think Diane would sign on to $300,000 or $400,000. Yes?
I'm not signing on for less than $500,000. We've got to do, I mean, listen, if you're willing to do something, but I just think you're being so short-sighted.
Why don't we wait until, excuse me, why don't we wait till Sanjeev is here next
Yeah.
time and all 5 of us can vote on it?
No, that's not right. The thing is to go back to MPW and have another conversation with this new number around and be like.
I'd almost say not to go back to them, and I would almost say that the number should come, again, hear me out. I would say the number should come from us in terms of what we're willing to spend. Listen, you could do the whole plan. Maybe you can do the plan over 3 years, or maybe you can do the plan in segments. But I don't think, from what I'm seeing, and again, in full transparency, I don't think there's not the votes to do $1.8 million in terms of doing it from this committee.
Right, but the question is can we get it done to get it started before you leave?
I gave you the number.
I understand that. So if we don't go to MKW, then then would it be DPW that's doing that?
Maybe you take parts of their plan and we get somebody else to, maybe we take parts of their plan. And again, I'm going from the vision plan, which was, and I think you'll remember this, the idea of the vision plan was to
I'm just
open
trying
it
to figure out how to actually do this.
to the lower number.
No, I understand that part. Alex?
We went to them once. We went to them once.
Alex, is there a way to say we want to do this, this, and this? Can you make the construction bits for it? We want to do the beginning pieces of it for $300,000. can you get it started?
I think, again, I think the committee has to decide what it is that they want from the project, because they've designed something and they've got this vision that they showed the township last meeting. And they're saying to the township, this is what we can this is what we envision for this area. And this is what it's gonna cost you. Now, we might be able to tweak some of that. That's the idea of value engineering. We're gonna tweak some of that. But if you're saying, well, we only want this, this, and this, well, then I think that takes on a different sort of conversation, and you need to be able to identify that clearly, because I mean, there's a whole host of things in this, right? You know, do you want the concrete steps and railing? Do you want the concrete wall? Do you just want the paths? Do you just want lighting? You know, I think there's a degree of if you are going to go down a route where you're providing a budget, you also have to provide them, hey, look, we're going to spend 400, 500, whatever it might be, 300, and you're going to say we want to be able to accomplish this, this, and this, and then what's going to happen then is they're going to tell you this is what you can do with that kind of money,
Right.
and then it's going to come back to you, and you're going to say, well, that's not enough, and you can adjust your number, or you can, you know what, so.
And I
Plus,
would,
it's one last thing we have to remember, if we were to do this whole thing, it closes the park down for 10 months, the front part of the park, 10 months.
I don't think anyone wants to do, other than Diane, the whole thing. I don't think.
But we'd like to know
well,
that.
that's something,
Yeah,
that's something
you'd have to
you
know, how
maybe
long
you
is
have
the
to
park
do
gonna
it.
get closed?
I think the first question is asking MKW if they're willing to go down the road of tweaking.
And can we go a second route and ask, can we ask our head of DPW, who is the old forester, what would it look like if our tree committee, which we have in the DPW, were to clean up all the trees? Clean up all the trees, clean up the yews, clean it up, open up the park, which we have a group that does that within it. And, you know, the one thing that stood out with me, the only thing that stood out with me with them was the black asphalt on top of the big tree at the beginning that's suffocating that tree. They said that black top is suffocating it, and that really needs to get lifted up.
Yeah, I've been out there with our shade tree department, actually taking and cutting the roots so that they could grow in the right direction.
Right, so that's worrisome, that big beautiful
And it
tree.
has to be you know, again, the fence has to come down, it has to be regraded, and again, this is just an initial.
Right,
thought.
I'm with you, Richard. I'm a little
I
more-
think
You need
next
one
year's
more month,
committee
let's do
should
it.
seriously
That's what I'm
consider.
saying. I'm with you too. Let's
So
just get it
I'll
started.
make a motion, if we have to, let's just get this thing started, let's agree, and again, I agree with, don't get me wrong, I agree with Diane, I would spend a lot of money, you know, on the park, I just think that people think $1.5 million, $1.8 million is a lot of money to do all this work inside the park. The vision plan was to open the park up as a gateway to the town. I've been saying, let's get it
That's what you're
started.
Okay.
So Richard, you said 300,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do I hear 500,000?
No, okay, so.
I'm just trying to get it started.
It's gonna half-ass job. Okay, do what you want. I'm
I'm
done.
not saying that's the end.
I have one,
I'm
it's
just
my
saying get it
penultimate
started.
meeting. I am so done with this.
We
I
have-
think it's very short-sighted.
We have a proposed two-way traffic circulation design for Milburn Avenue and Essex Street. Mr. McDonald, do you want to talk about that for us?
Yeah,
please?
this is really just a touch point to let everybody know that that is also still out there. We've received a draft report from Colliers. The committee needs to sift through it, as well as the subcommittee that had been working on this two-way traffic circulation. But just really wanted to let everybody know that that's still ongoing, and we received a big long report, draft report. So we're going to be looking through that. And my suggestion to the Township Committee is that the subcommittee get back together and look through this, meet with our assistant engineer, Christine Bugle, as well as Colliers, to really start sifting through this before we authorize any sort of conceptual or public meetings or anything like that. So just again, a touch point and to move forward with the process.
And I just want to add that is going to cost money. So if you're going to go into this, folks, you got to be prepared to spend money. And I really think next year's committee should seriously consider an open space trust fund. Because if you had that done, like we should have done years ago, you would have money to do the park. But you can take it out of the general budget. But if you're going to keep next year being afraid to spend the money, the town is deteriorating and the school spends the money. In fact, I think there's going to be a referendum for an increase in the Board of Ed budget.
So they are spending the money because you don't not get improvements and you don't keep a town of this caliber if you're just sitting back on your laurels. So that's it. I
There's
think it's really
15
a
homes
shame.
on the market, Diane. They're buying them up like nobody's business. People want to be in this town, I promise you. And we don't let everything deteriorate. In fact, there's a lot of things that we do fix, so I take offense to that. May I
sorry
have a
to
motion
offend
to
you.
adjourn the
Wait, I
meeting?
have something for,
We have no new business.
I know, but I just want to say that, so in the morning, I'm gonna send out an email to the Township Committee, Michael and Annette, requesting a emergency special meeting before the 16th to meet with Jared.
I would just suggest that
That's not new business.
that you BCC everybody.
BCC, well, I'll just hit, please don't reply, but, or BCC, but I'll BCC everyone, that's fine, but the committee needs to be talking about the fair share housing settlement and how we're moving forward with it, because it's not any one person's responsibility or any one person's task, and the entire consensus of the township committee is gonna give direction to Jared Cantor to tell him what to do, not just one person. So that's how that's gonna have to happen.
May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
May I have a second?